play Generation 1 when it first came out, did you know that in order to evolve Machamp, you have to trade your Pokemon? Or, if you're in Pokemon Go, you have a Machamp, you have 125 candy, you have a 4-armed monster called Machamp. Machamp, if you used to be a hardcore gymmer, if you still are a hardcore gymmer, this thing is a monster. This is the Hulk with 4 arms, the Pokemon version of the Hulk. He has 4 arms. He looks like he's mean, but he's actually not. He just wants to punch your face to oblivion. And he's really good for Ultra Premier Cup. Did I sell Machamp enough for you? If you think he was cool, if you think he was muscular, or she, because they could actually be both. They wear a championship belt. So they're the champion, confirmed, as you see right here. But they're absolutely amazing. Now, what makes Machamp so good in Go Battle League Ultra Premier Cup for it to be literally the #1 lead? The reason being is because it has high stamina, high attack, maxed out 30, 20, 30, 56, so you can basically bank that it's going to, you can level it up pretty highly, you can level it up pretty high, and it just has, has a monster amount of attack. Counter is one of the best fast moves in the game, and it has Cross Chop. Cross Chop does not take a lot of energy to get to, Counter generates energy quickly, and it allows you to fire off Cross Chops like no tomorrow. And it also has Rock Slide. With the Rock Slide coverage, it actually covers a lot of its weaknesses. For example, here we go. It has, the good thing about fighting types, pure fighting types, is that they have very little weaknesses. However, they also have very little resistances. And unfortunately, Psychic, Flying, and Fairy types are actually popular in Premier Ultra League. So the reason why we really want, I'm going to take a look at it really deeply in the Matrix, because like I said, you can see a lot of Charizards, a lot of Driplums, Clefable's still out there, Togekiss is still annoying as hell, and you have 17,000 Confusion users, Slowbro, Galade, Exeggutor, there's so many Psychic types in Ultra Premier Cup that it's a wonder at how Machamp is really the #1 pick. However, you do resist Bug, so those Mega Horns do not do a thing to you. You resist Dark type, so Alolan Mux is high. Unless you Sludge Wave. Well, Sludge Wave hurts, but we're going to go back later. And Rock types. You resist Rock types. So those Crustals that throw rocks at you, they don't do very well against you with Machamp. Now, like I said, Machamp is insanely useful. It has one of the best moves in the best fast moves in the game. Counter. Dynamic Punch, Coast Calm Chop. There's a lot of different things you can run. Generally, a lot of Machamp users have Counter, Cross Chop, and then you have Rock Slide. With this coverage, you can cover flyers with Rock Slide. Also, Rock Slide does KO a lot of things. For example, Charizard gets buried underneath a bunch of rocks, and those poor little Driftlums that you see that fly around and say, "Oh, I'm not weak against anything," get buried under a bunch of rocks. Again, it's been out since Gen 1. If you don't have one now, I don't know what to tell you, because it's been a while. This is season 4. We're in season 4, yeah. This is season 4. And there's been like a couple of fighting events out there even before PvP came out, etc. So there has been a ton of chances for you to get Machamp. Hopefully you got a good one for PvP, because it looks like it's going to punch its way through the Ultra Premier Cup for Ultra Premier. Now, like I said, it does level up pretty high. Level 28 is a perfect. So around level 20 to 29 is probably where you can expect to max out at. And it costs 50,000 dust. So it's not very cheap. However, it's very powerful, like I said, for Ultra Premier Cup. Alright, so here we have the Premier Cup rankings. And as you see here, overall, Machamp is the #1, the MVP, the one that will punch you down. And for some odd reason, it beats Gyarados overall. It beats Empoleon, Lapras, Charizard. So 2 flyers that technically resist its punches, it literally beats. As long as you just bury your competition under a bunch of rocks, you are good. So Machamp has incredible bait potential. It has incredibly high attack, as we reviewed on like the Go Hub analysis. And even though its key losses are against like just obvious things like I said, Confusion users, Charmers, Ghost just because you resist it, and it's double resisted because Poison and Ghost, and you have Swampert and Venusaur, so you just get outpaced. However, that's not where we're not just looking at the overall rankings, we are looking at the lead. As you see, Machamp is actually an incredible switch as well as the #1 lead in Ultra Premier. Why? Because in the 2 shields, Machamp absolutely destroys. Let me just show you something about like how Machamp is just really destructive. Okay, so counter 7 energy, one of the highest DPS is 8, 7, and it's a 2-turn move. It has Cross Chop. With access to Cross Chop takes 35 energy. In other words, it takes 5 Cross Chops. I mean, not 5 Cross Chops. It takes only 5 counters to get to its signet to get to Cross Chop, and it gets stabbed. In other words, it rivals Cross Poison and also Psycho Boost. The only difference is it doesn't debuff you. And it still does, Cross Chop still does an insane amount of damage, 50 damage per shot at 50 energy. One of the highest DPs in the game. It's just nuts. Just how powerful counter plus Cross Chop is. Because of that combination, Machamp is a monster. That's why Machamp and Shadow Machamp both rank at #1 and 2 respectively. With Shadow Machamp taking a little bit 0.6 below, but that's still not much. Machamp still serves as the #1 lead in the game for Ultra Premier. Why? Because you beat such a wide variety of things. You beat Gyarados, you beat Charizard, you beat Snorlax, you beat Lapras and Pulling. In other words, you just punch everything to death. That's how good Machamp is. You literally just punch everything to death. Now, its key losses are also common. However, Machamp is, like I said, with counter and cross chop, it only takes 5. It's one of the fastest charging moves. And with shields in the closer, Machamp will actually like wreck your competition. As you see here, Shadow Machamp also has matchups that it flips. You actually beat Swampert in a 2 shield straight cross chop, I believe. But you lose against Dragonite really strongly. So you have less play. It's just really up to you how you want to play it. We're gonna compare both versions right here, but there are very few mons like Machamp that can literally just cross top its competition and just do an obscene amount of damage. As you see here, Shadow Machamp can actually beat Swampert in the 2 shield literally just straight cross chop. You don't have to be fancy. You just literally punch it to death. So if you have a good Ultra League Shadow Champ or even regular Machamp, you're going to do a lot of damage. The giant concern is because of Shadow Machamp losing. It's like, yes, you get a lot of damage. However, the bulk kind of matters. If you do encounter a Confusion User or a Togekiss, it doesn't take very long before you're shot down. As you see here, it only takes a whooping 5 confusions before you actually lose. And you lose all scenarios. So even in the zeros, you literally have no prayer. Confusion just chunks away at poor Machamp. So that's Machamp in the lead. As you see, it has very relevant meta matchups. However, the drawback is Charmers, Confusion Users, and also the prominent amount of flyers in the meta mean you're gonna have some competition. You're gonna have some challenge getting Machamp versus the meta. However, like I said, it functions as a great switch. It ranks at #14. Not bad, not great either. However, with that being said, if they throw a normal type into you, you in the lead, they throw a normal type into you, Machamp can just farm down and just cross chop everything to oblivion. So keep that in mind. As a closer, Machamp isn't that great. It ranks at #14 again, but it still beats a lot of relevant things. Remember what I told you about just dropping a bunch of rocks on everything? Guess what? That's literally all you have to do. In the closer, you literally, against Charizard, you just dump a bunch of rocks on its head. As you see here, Charizard never gets a Blast Burn, and you literally just dump a bunch of rocks on its head. Remember I was talking about counter is one of the fastest energy generating moves? You outpace a Charizard to Blast Burn. And bam, it's nuts just how powerful it is. You probably used it in Season 3. If you did, it should work just as well as for you in Season 4, because there isn't any major changes as far as like Ultra League. The most you'll see is probably Buffalad, but like you beat Buffalad too. As you see, you beat Buffalad in any scenarios, unless somehow it ends up with 2 shields against you. Again, along with Porygon Z, that's another new thing. You beat Porygon Z in all shield scenarios. There's like no prayer. Even if you do debuff it, it could still kill you. Like, well, not all shield scenarios. Well, basically
Most of it, if it ends up with a shield, yes, you die, but like it in the like in all even shield scenarios, you pretty much destroy it. It just you literally just punch this thing to death. Unfortunately, even if you do get the debuff, you literally just keep punching it to death. And if they don't get the debuff, if they don't get the debuff, then you're yeah. Imagine it, yeah, if they don't get the debuff, you're pretty good. So Machamp is very, very powerful, like I said. Let's take out the Matrix, and you're just gonna see just how stupid strong Machamp is just in the Matrix. I'm gonna compare the both the regular version and the Shadow version, just so you take a look at both, so you can decide which one you want to do. But like I said, generally the one you used for Season 3 will work just as well for you in Season 4. Alright, so for Machamp, I put the Shadow version here, as you see. I also put like 6 different variations. I put Cross Chop Rock Slide, which is the main moveset you want to have. I put Cross Chop Stone Edge, Rock Slide, Close Combat, and the Shadow version of Altix. I'm not gonna get too fancy with Machamp. If you want to play a certain moveset, then go ahead and plug it in the Matrix here and take a look for yourself. But for now, I'm only gonna analyze 6, and the main one I'm gonna analyze is basically Cross Chop and Rock Slide, which are your #1 recommended movesets, unless there's something that really piques my interest. So here's the 2 shield scenario. As you see, all variations will be both Abomasnows. Now, Machamp with Stone Edge actually beats Ampharos. I'm not entirely sure, like, why there's such a humongous difference. Is it because, close combat? Oh, so the third one's a close combat. Okay, so somehow, wait, why? Yeah, why does this not beat this? Like, can you just go straight cross chop? Yeah, you should beat. Yeah, you should beat. I don't get it. You could just go straight cross chop. I don't know why you lose in this scenario. Yeah, why do you lose in this scenario? I don't know. Anyways, here, let me just reload it. No, it looks like the same. You can win this matchup, just go straight cross chop. I don't know why the sims are here, but you beat Ampharos just going straight cross chop. As you see, Machamp with Shadow version also beats it with straight cross chop, so just keep that in mind. You're gonna beat Charizard. I do believe you have to bait though for the Charizard matchup. You have to bait and then random like oh you could actually just what the heck? Well, no, you actually don't have to bait and throw the rock slide. You could just kill it straight cross chop and come. Yeah, you can kill it. Wait, no, is that the no Charizard wins? Okay, I looked at that backwards. Never mind. Anyways, as long as it looks like as long as you can land. Yeah, you lose a 2 shield against it. Just yeah, don't pay attention to me. This was really confusing. Yeah, this was really confusing. This might have flipped backwards, so this actually flips around. I have no idea why this is looking like this, but don't worry about it. You can beat Charizard like the rock slide, but it looks like you win the lead. Unless the Shadow version can flip the Charizard matchup. So let's take a look if the Shadow version flips it. Okay, so the Shadow version can actually win. Okay, so that's bait dependent though. So the Shadow version can actually beat Charizard. You just have to make sure yeah, you have to land Rock Slide. So you have to double bait and then you have to land the Rock Slide. That's the only choice you have. Otherwise, you lose the 2 shield. So keep that in mind. With the Shadow version, you can win. However, you need to land a Rock Slide with the Shadow Machamp. You can do the same thing with regular Machamp too, but you have to land that Rock Slide. Double bait and land a Rock Slide. That's what you have to do. He loses against Flavel, Dragonite, Drift Blim convincingly. Now the Shadow version, you can be Electivire. Electivire isn't common. I wouldn't bang on it either. But you also why do you beat it? Yeah, what does Electivire like outpace you or something like that? Yeah. Well, I think it's because it double. What if you like called a bait? If they straight ice punch you, you can beat it. Okay, so this is bait. This is bait dependent. They have to bait both of your shields with ice punch, and then wild charge kills you. So if you can take an ice punch. Ice punch only does 40 damage, so you can actually take 2 ice punches before like it actually kills you. Just be careful the wild charge because the wild charge does more than half. So just keep out for the Electivire.
Alright, so here's the 1 shield scenario with Machamp. As you see, you pretty convincingly beat Ampharos. You convincingly beat pretty much every single one of the A's. So you beat Abomasnow, you beat Ampharos. And I don't really get what this matchup. I'm not sure why you have a 7-4. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could win it. Like, you beat Ampharos a straight cross chop, or you bait the shield cross chop and then you bury it under a bunch of rocks. Yep, that seems to be the case. I think you can win just straight. Can you win just going straight cross chop? I guess that's something that you can win.
Yeah, so you could just go straight cross chop in this scenario and you'll still beat Ampharos. So versus Ampharos, you'll still beat it as long as you go straight cross chop. Charizard, I think you have to bait. So Charizard, you have to bait and then throw the rock slide. That's the issue here. So just be careful because for Machamp for Champ, you have to bait and then you have to go rock slide. And I don't know why I think the Stone Edge matchup is kind of bugged. Unless you can, rock slide, but that's not rock slide. This is, I think this is it. Oh no, it is rock slide. So it's rock slide close combat. So you could just go straight rock slide. That makes sense. So you could just go straight rock slide in this matchup and still win. So you could literally just go straight rock slide to take the W against Charizard with. So that's interesting. Either way, you could pick your poison and you could beat Frost and Charizard. So you also beat Dragonite. I think this is bait dependent as well. I think you have to bait with the cross chop to finish it. I don't think you can. Actually, you might be able to just go straight rock slide, can you? No, you have to. Yeah, you. No, you'll faint. You need to hit the cross chop. So you need a bait. If your opponent calls a bait, they're a monster. If they don't call the bait, then you win. I mean, if they call the bait, if they don't call the bait, you win. So just keep that in mind. This is bait dependent. So this will flip the matchup if they don't. You beat Electivire, you beat Empoleon, you beat Excavalier. I'm guessing you just straight punch up Excavalier to Oblivion. You beat Honchkrow because you buried under a bunch of rocks. You're going to beat Lapras because you could just cross chop to Oblivion. Same thing with Magazone, you could just cross chop. Cross chop is just so oppressive, plus counter. I think for many of these matchups, the reason why Machamp is so strong, you could just literally just cross chop them to death. I don't even think you need to do Rock Slide. You literally just punch them to death. So you still win with cross chop. Cross chop with Machamp is death, and literally it just flips so many matchups just because of the sheer speed and the damage that Machamp outputs. You beat both Excavalier and Scizor with neutral cross chop. You also beat Snorlax. You beat all the normal types. You lose against Swampert, but you beat Shadow Swampert. So if you get Machamp in the ones versus Shadow Swampert, you do win. However, you see the regular one, just be careful because I think you need energy advantage to flip this matchup. Obviously, you're going to lose against Togekiss. You're going to lose against Toxicroak just because you were poison plus your fighting move. And Venusaur, you lose against Venusaur as well just because of counter being resisted. So Machamp, I mean, is very powerful, extremely powerful in the one shield. So as a switch, that's why it rates so high as a switch. In the one shield, you can actually take a lot of matchups just by straight cross chop or rock slide. Or you just do an obscene amount of damage. You could probably, even in this matchup, for example, yes, you lose against Swampert, but here's the thing. You'll break the shield. You'll definitely take the shield, and you leave it in farm range. So whatever you come in can farm Swampert. So just keep that in mind. That there's a lot of plays you can make, even though with Swampert's just sheer amount of damage that it outputs with cross chop. And alright, so here's the zero shields. Now, I did the sim on the zeros for pretty much everything, so if there's anything that really stands out, like I said, so far nothing really. It looks to be like Rock Slide Cross Chop is like the best moveset for you to run. There are some things you can use that flip certain matchups, but it doesn't look like it's worth it just because of coverage. So if you see here, for the Zero Shield, you beat Abomasnow very handily. Ampharos does beat you just because of speed, but I'm guessing you win the matchup with close combat because close combat will one hit. So if you do close combat and Ampharos in the closer, you will beat it. As for Charizard, you just lay it underneath a bunch of rocks, and that pretty much seals the deal. You'll live the Dragon Claw, they never get to the Blast Burn, and then you get to a Rock Slide, and that's GG's. So, Charizard dies straight rocks. Same thing with Dragonite and Drifblim, you literally just bury them under a bunch of rocks. And that's why Machamp is just so oppressive. Like, just because Rock Slide, this combination of Cross Chop and Rock Slide is just so powerful. You beat Empoleon, you beat Excavalier. I'm guessing you beat Scizor too. You do beat Scizor. You can beat Scizor. I think you just beat them just going straight cross chop. Obviously, you're going to lose against Flyers. You're going to lose against Confusion users. And you're going to lose against Charmers, like Togekiss. But other than that, you beat a lot of positive matchups. Let's see. Shadow Champ. Shadow Champ also, it seems like Shadow Plant does lose some matchups. For example, you will lose some, same thing with Cross. You do lose some matchups with Shadow Champ. I'm guessing just because of like how much you live. So just be really careful. Be very careful of like I don't why
It doesn't. It looks like the strongest version seems to be the regular version. So the Shadow version does flip some matchups, for example, against Honchkrow, just because Rock Slide does more damage. I'm guessing it's because you OKO with Rock Slide. That's what I'm guessing. Oh, you just literally. You could cross chop it to a. No, you actually cross chop Honchkrow to death. That's really interesting. So Shadow version does flip some match. I don't see a lot of Honchkrows in the close, so don't worry about it. But don't worry too much about it. But like, that's nuts. You beat Lapras. It looks like the Rock Slide close combat version beats opposing Shadow Champs. So close combat will one-shot your will one-shot mirrors in the closer. You beat Magnezone, you beat Amok with both the close combat and the cross chop. You beat Obstagoon. Obstagoon just dies. Obstagoon just like gets wailed. The interesting is the close combat version actually flips some matchups like Poliwrath. Yeah, Poliwrath and there's actually some Poliwrath and Honchkrow actually get some matchups actually flip these. So just keep that in mind that some matchups are flipped with close combat. Not saying I would do it. It doesn't seem like close combat is super consistent to where like you'll actually take a lot of matches. Wow. But some of them, yes. Like, for example, with a Swampert, this could be an interesting one. You flip the Swampert matchup. Swampert is plentiful. And if you do show that you have close combat and you're not running Rock Slide, you can actually win some matches. But it's very situational. I wouldn't bank on Machamp trying to close combat Swamperts in the closer to win. Just don't. And like I said, it looks like the Shadow variant does flip some things, but just go over it, run the Matrix, and see what you're good against. And that's Machamp in the closer. Very powerful in the closer, but it loses hard against its weak picks, such as Confusion Users, Clavel, Galade, and whatever resistant, such as Gengar, and as well as, let's see, as well as Swampert, and something that can outpace it, like Swampert, or just like eat it, just because Swampert is, I mean, Machamp isn't super thick. So he's super strong, but he's not super thick. Or she, depending which one you have. Yes, Machamp can be female. Alright, so in summary, make sure you keep Machamp away from Charmers. This is why you need to keep Machamp away from Confusion Users and away from Charmers. You get absolutely annihilated. This is why you put Machamp in the lead, because if you see Galade, Slowbro, Walking Executor, Tree Thingy, or even like Togekiss, run. Like, just run. Like, get out of there. Because you don't stand a chance and you will die too. If you can, try to switch immediately so you don't catch the confusion on Machamp. Because even though Machamp can somewhat take some damage, at the same time, it's not very thick either, like I mentioned, so you gotta be careful. Machamp, also, its best moveset seems to be Rock Slide, Cross Chop. However, it doesn't mean that things like Stone Edge, Dynamic Punch, Heavy Slam, or it doesn't mean that these movesets aren't viable. For example, if you get Togekiss, things like Heavy Slam, you can still beat it. The keyword is can. For example, if you're in the zero shield, if you're like in up 2 shields, let's just imagine. Well, you still lose it. If you have energy lead, how about that? So let's do this. So just keep in mind, like I said, as long as you keep them away, or if you have energy lead. For example, if you have energy lead, you can probably come out of these scenarios. Okay, this is actually getting worse. How about 100 energy? Okay, so here we go. So Heavy Slam does 79 damage. Rock Slide, I think Rock Slide is what takes the cake, because Rock Slide, like I said, there are some other things that do a lot of damage, but just remember that Charmers will delete Machamp. Like, this is literally like the most overpowered scenario I can give you. Up 2 shields, like we mentioned in the analysis. But like I said, that doesn't mean things like Heavy Slam or Rock Slide or Stone Edge aren't viable. Like, as you see here, up a shield, you can still win. I think if you have at least 40 energy, something like that, you could probably still take away this matchup. Yes, you can. So there are still ways you can win with energy advantage. So as long keep it away. In the end, if you get it to the scenario like 1-0, like you get shield advantage and you get energy, then you might be able to squeeze out matchups against like Togekiss and other confusion users. Another thing is, don't use Karate Chop. Karate Chop is horrible. It's not great, it's horrible. If you're using it for raids and other things, okay, but if you're using Karate Chop for like counter, it's, as you see, the DP is 572, so it looks like exactly the same, right?
Here's the thing though. Counter is 8 damage. So the 3 damage, believe it or not, the extra 3 damage you do from counter actually matters. So it's not, like I said, counter versus karate chop, just use counter. Just don't use karate chop. Use karate chop for raids. And then just use counter for always use counter for PvP. Anyways, that's the analysis. I will see you guys on the next video. If you guys have any questions, just make sure you put in the comments below. And I will see you on the next video. Remember, Machamp is a really good lead, but make sure you keep it away from Charmers and Confusion users. You guys have a great day.